Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be doing an honest book review of this book, which is The Artful Parent by Jean Van Hool, which is all about helping your child to do art and becoming more artful in your lifestyle. So without further ado, let's crack on into it. If you haven't been to this channel before, then my name is Abigail and I make videos based around intentional Christian parenting. And one of the things that I like to do to be more intentional is I want to introduce art with my son as he gets older. So of course when your child is quite young you can't do that many art activities, but my son is almost 2 now. So we're definitely starting to think more along the lines of doing different art activities. So I read this book and I've tried out some of the things in it, and I'm going to give you my honest review of that today. So on the front cover it says it will give you simple ways to fill your family's life with art and creativity, and it includes over 60 art projects for children's ages 1 to 8. And this author I know also has a blog, theartfulparent.com, and this book was kind of born out of the blog. So I feel like a lot of these things are going to be tried and tested things from the blog. And yeah, I know there's a lot of different art books out there for kids and for parents and kids to do together. So I really wanted to rate this book and see if it's good and if I would recommend it above other books. I would definitely say that the premise of this book is if you want to do art with your child but you're not very arty yourself, or you're not really sure where to start, then the premise of this book is that this is a good book to kind of get you into doing art. It's like a first steps into art with your child. And the first thing I want to say is that the way the book is set out is absolutely beautiful. Because it is an art book, I would expect this, and doesn't disappoint. It is full of photos and pictures of just beautiful things within the book. It gives obviously examples of the art, and then it just has like the way art activities are set up, and the way that the pictures of the children, and everything about the pictures and the layout of this book I really enjoy. I find it very engaging and it definitely invites your eye, and it's very intriguing. Like if you pick it up and like browse through it, it definitely captures your attention and makes you want to read it more. I also really like that it has articles throughout the book. So I'll refer to this a little bit later on, but just the way that the articles are set out, and then there's little boxes for other information, and there's little quotes. Everything is just set out really nicely. I personally love quotes, so at the start of every chapter there is a little quote relevant to that chapter or relevant to art in general, and I loved all these quotes. I love quotes from famous people. I think it's just really inspiring. So if that's your kind of thing, that definitely has a lot of quotes in it. And I think it's always good when people draw from other people's ideas as well. I find that really intriguing and, like I said, inspiring. The first part of the book is all about preparing for art, and I found this section really helpful. So as someone who's not very arty, but I want my child to be surrounded by art, this was an essential section and very helpful. If you are already well on your way to doing lots of art activities with your child, it might not be as helpful, but even so I would say have a flick through it. What I particularly liked was that it gave you specific things as well to buy. So I like to know specifically what is your recommendations of what things to buy, and it gives you that for the various age ranges, whether that's from the toddler to preschool to school age child. It gives you her personal recommendations of what you need to buy first. She is very good at remembering that you might have a tight budget, so she always says what's really quite essential and then what things are extra, what things you don't necessarily need unless you have the money to buy them. And personally I find that helpful, because especially if you're just going into art for the first time, you might not want to buy all the things, you might just want to buy a few things, and she really does highlight what few things it is that she would recommend that you buy. The first section also includes the idea of process art, which is art for art's sake and not necessarily little self-contained craft projects, but actual art which is inviting creativity. I also love the section about why art is important and how you can fit it into your day as a busy mum. I find that really helpful, and how art can really help your day move along rather than hinder your day and make it an extra thing you have to do on top of everything else. It talks about how you can use art to make your day more smooth, and I like that idea. I thought that would be a really helpful idea for a lot of mums. Another section talks about how to create a physical space for art, and again this is very realistic. It understands that you might not have a massive room you can dedicate just to art. It understands that if you do have that, then it tells you what you can do with that. But if you don't, if you have a tiny house or flat, you can maybe convert one of your cupboards into the art space, and she goes about saying that this can be just as good. And I find that her whole approach in this way is very encouraging, and it makes you feel like even no matter what your circumstances are, it makes you feel like you could do art within your space. And I think that's a really, really helpful aspect of the book overall. She also talks about how to talk about art with your child, and also what to do with the art after it's completed, which I never even thought about. So it was really helpful for me because I didn't consider like having tons and tons of drawings left over, because my son's not at that stage yet. But yeah, when I think about it, you're going to have tons of like paintings and drawings left over, and what will you do with all that stuff? And she really talks about loads of really inventive, cool ideas of what you can do with the leftover art, which doesn't involve cluttering up your house. Overall, the first section is one of my favourite sections of the whole book, and one that I've reread a few times, because I feel like any question that I might have had about doing art with my child has already been answered in this first section of the book. So I feel just like my questions have been answered, and I also felt really inspired to do art with my child. Like I said, she has a way of like drawing you in and making you want to do art. So section 2 is a lot more of a typical art book layout, so it's got a list of loads and loads of different art activities you can do with your child, and it's all laid out nicely with the beautiful photos again, with very simple instructions, and then with little notes at the end. I really like that it's split by age for easy reference. You can go through and see approximately what activities should be good for your child at that stage, which is very useful if you've got a big massive book full of activities and your child is 1 and you're like, what do I do with at this stage? I found that really helpful. The index also splits it up in different ways. It splits it up, I think, by method, by paint supplies, different things like that. There's lots of different ways that it's split up, but I personally found the age one most helpful. And the art activities, I have flicked through the art activities and I've done some of them with my son, and they all look, and the ones I've tried are very, very simple. And this is the same for me, this is the same as with a cookbook. I'm not going to pick up a cookbook that's got a million different ingredients and is really, really difficult to do. It's just not going to happen. And I think the same was with art. If it's got 100 different activities, different things you need, different materials you need to do the art activity, then I'm not going to pick up and do it. But these ones are really, really simple, and there's hardly any materials needed for each art activity. So I found that really helpful and encouraging. And I'm going to insert here one of the activities I did. It was one of the really basic ones because, like I said, my son's not yet 2. We made homemade Play-Doh, and then we played with that. So I'll insert some footage here just showing us doing that. Some of the other simple activities we've tried is a section on cloud dough, which is basically making kind of sand out of flour. We're also planning to do painting. We've tried the finger painting. Samuel's loved all the activities. There's just a little bit of logistics needed, whether you're going to do them inside or outside sometimes. But yes, like I said, all of the activities are so simple and easy and intriguing. I mentioned earlier some useful articles that they have. One of my favourite articles, and one of the ones that I have looked at, is using recycled materials for art and craft projects. And yeah, there's just tons of useful articles that will just really inspire you and intrigue you and make you want to try each art activity in a slightly different way each time. So overall, I feel personally like this is the art book that I'm going to use for the next few years as Samuel gets older, to do all my art activities and to use all the activities from. I feel like I'm not going to need much else but this book for a good few years now. I feel like I'm going to consult it and I'm going to look at it for renewed inspiration. And I'm not an arty person at all, as probably anyone will tell you, but it's really made me change my thinking around art and look at art in a slightly different way. And I would say that it's worth buying this book just for that. So I'm not an artful person at all, but through reading this book I have really been inspired to create an artful home for my son, and I'm hoping that by sharing this some of you guys will find this helpful as well. There's so much more I could say about this book. I really love it. I really rate it. I really recommend it. Yeah, if you're into art or wanting to get into art or even thinking slightly about art, buy this book. It's so good. I've not even covered even half of what's in this book. There's just so much packed into it. It's not that big, it's so easy to access, it looks beautiful. It's really great. I can't see enough good things about it. I really wanted to find something negative to say about it because I like to have like a well-balanced review. But honestly, I'm not going to nitpick because I literally can't. There's nothing about this book that I dislike. So yeah, if you're into this, get it, because I do highly recommend it. I'm going to link a couple of videos here for you guys to check out if you did enjoy this video. And I'll see you very soon in my next one. Bye guys.